Hello again, YouTube. This is Peter with you once again. I'm finally making a new video. Unfortunately, for maybe some of you, this is probably going to be one of those videos that really only appeals to long-term, hardcore subscribers who, for whatever reason, want to hear my every little thought. Because it's going to be, in large part, why I don't make more videos, why my output has been so little over the past probably several years. Now, for more casual viewers, along the way, I'm going to talk about my thoughts about the evolution of YouTube and where YouTube is at in terms of the sort of category that I fit into of talking heads, of opinionated people giving their opinions about stuff and culture in general. So maybe tangentially, I'll talk about some stuff that interests you. So stick around if you want. Don't if you don't want. But maybe that's the first thing I should talk about is my attitude. My, okay, if you want to watch this video, great. If you don't want to watch this video, hey, I'm not your parent. I'm not going to tell you what to do. That is the wrong attitude for success on YouTube. You have to constantly remind people to rate, comment, and subscribe, and please, please share the video, obviously. Got to milk those algorithms. Part of the reason that I shouldn't say don't make more videos, but probably I'm not more successful on YouTube is because I don't play the game very well. I understand the game. I understand what you're supposed to do to get more subscribers and build your channel up and game the algorithms. And I just can't be bothered because when it comes right down to it, I don't really see this as, number one, a career path. And I don't begrudge anyone who does look at YouTube as a career path and take things from that angle, but I don't personally. And because I don't look at it as a career path, it's a side hobby, I'm not as willing to put the time and energy into it as I once was when I was younger and didn't really think that hard about where it was all going. On the other hand, although I have a sort of nonchalant attitude towards my success on YouTube, I also want to try and do a good job and take some pride in what I'm doing. But then comes a dilemma that basically involves the concept of diminishing returns. So I could take a lot of time and energy to make something that's scripted, well edited, uses visual aids. I could, if I'm feeling super ambitious, involve animation and graphics and all these other things. But what would be the return on that? Probably not that great. If I did top-notch work constantly and really pushed it hard, yes, I could build up a channel. I have the skill set necessary to do the technical crap involved. Look at me, I got this ring light here that reflects off my glasses in a weird way because I need to keep my glasses on to see, but they also reflect off the lights. Yeah, I have the equipment, we have the technology, we have the know-how, we can rebuild him. That's, million-dollar channel sort of thing. But it also takes time and energy that I could be using to do any number of other things. And when it comes down to it, I, like most people, am one part lazy, one part have other hobbies. So my own investment in it, in building up my channel, is not great. Not only that, but the way that YouTube has changed, long story short, over the last decade, is you have to do things a certain way to get popular. Otherwise, you just die in obscurity. And other people have talked about how the algorithms are slanted. It used to be that it was all about views and shorter videos, and then they arbitrarily changed it to like runtime, and that affected people who did things like animation, because animations are usually short because they're so time consuming, and on and on and on. People who make videos daily. And it's just unlikely that I'm ever going to be the sort of person who's making 20, 30-minute long videos on a nearly daily basis, all while keeping up a certain level of quality and pushing my videos on all sorts of other social media sites and constantly reminding people to do things like share the video and all these other things to play the game of YouTube popularity. So I guess I'm coasting on a downward trajectory of what's left of the momentum that my channel accrued over a decade. But who knows? Maybe at some point things will start to pick back up and level off again rather than the sort of slow decline that they're in now. But I think another part of the reason that I don't make more videos, aside from the fact that I'm have other interests and I'm sort of lazy and I'm nonchalant about my YouTube success and I'm just focused on other hobbies or just vegging out and watching television or messing around with my phone like everybody else on the planet or in the Western world where we have such privileges as electricity and smartphones. You understand what I'm saying, right? Not. Aside from that, as you can see from this video, I'm sort of in the category of those talking head opinionated people. And for the first several years that I was on YouTube, one of the big things to talk about was religion and arguing about religion and the existence of God and all that sort of stuff. And as a philosophy major and as somebody with strong opinions on those issues, that interested me at the time. And in many ways it still does, because I think even though YouTube atheism and arguing about religion has sort of died down here on YouTube quite a bit, it's nowhere near what it was 6 or 7 years ago. In spite of that, it's not as if the topic has stopped being relevant. It's not as if the sorts of things that were problems pointed out by the so-called new atheists have been completely solved. It's basically that people got bored of it and they started fighting with each other. But around 5 or 6 years ago now, there was a major shift towards either talking about or complaining about feminism and social justice. Now, I have on occasion made videos on that topic when I felt like it, basically. But there's been a whole new group of entire channels who their entire mission in life is to talk about what crazy feminists on Tumblr are doing this week. And the whole talking head opinionated thing has shifted towards an area of discussion I have been waiting years just to blow over, basically. And I think it's starting to. I've seen signs that the anti-feminist crowd has started to fracture and infight and get sick of things the way that what happened with YouTube atheism is just repeating itself, because it's a trend, as ContraPoints pointed out very well. It was a trend. This is now a trend. And I think that this trend is taking a turn. Examples or sort of watershed moments that I see in this, people arguing about feminism and social justice. You have Thunderfoot and the Amazing Atheist on the anti-social justice side, anti-feminist side, taking a bit of a turn in their look at things. I think for Thunderfoot, probably the election of Trump was a bit of a wake-up call, and he started to see certain other anti-feminist YouTube video bloggers or rational skeptics or whatever the hell they want to label themselves, those sorts of video bloggers for what they were, even though it's kettle and pot situation, but he started to wake up to that a bit. The Amazing Atheist is like, why are we still constantly talking about that? On the other side, you have Lacey Green seeing some of the toxic side of social justice and starting to accept the reality of that. And again, although I've made videos on these subjects, it's hard for me to express the extent to which I just stopped caring a long time ago, other than to say that that has quite a bit to do with my general lack of video making. Because although I could make videos about seemingly random things like documentaries I want to talk about or books, and I occasionally do that, and I plan to do more of that in the future, or movies, which I feel I probably shouldn't do all that much of because it's not really my area, it's not my specialty. And so many other people do it that I couldn't really compete with them. But aside from making random videos on that, I've rarely, over the last 3 or 4 years, thought it worth my time to make videos talking about social justice. Every time I have, I've regretted it. One way or the other, I've just been like, well, this was a wall-banging experience. Why did I do that? And I'm kind of surprised and also not surprised that this whole topic of conversation has not only played itself out for as long as it has, but we saw in the rise of Trump, people constantly saying things like they're tired of political correctness. Because it would be easy to say, well, this is just something happening in this little fringe of YouTube, the keyhole through which I see reality on the internet and on YouTube. But to hear that as a common phrase in a presidential election makes me stop and think, well, maybe this is much more widespread than I had given it credit for. But here's the thing, though. My basic thought is that feminism and these sorts of movements are more or less generationally cyclical. So you go back to the 100 years ago, you have the suffragettes movement taking off, and in 1920, women getting the right to vote. Approximately 20 years later, you have World War II, and although there wasn't a feminist movement as we might recognize it otherwise, you had women entering into the workforce more than ever because of the war, and images like Rosie the Riveter. Flash forward to the baby boom generation, another 20 years or so, you have the second wave feminism, bra burning Betty Friedan sort of feminism, the 60s and into the 70s. And then flash forward another 20 years to Generation X, and you have third wave feminism, Riot Girl, the start of this talk about the media. Flash forward another generation to the millennials, and you have fourth wave Tumblr feminism. And these things, again, I basically think that they're on a culturally cyclical pattern that's roughly generational, and that you have a cohort of people who reach peak idealism from their late teens to their roughly mid-20s, when young people at the peak of their idealism, they, for a variety of different reasons, find a cause to champion, and it becomes the big cultural talking point for a few years. The battles are fought, and various things happen. People sort of realize that there's more to changing the world than pointing out things that are problematic and calling people racist, sexist, transphobic, etc. You can't morally outrage your way to social change, and they get a bit more jaded and a bit more realistic, and the people who are yelling about the backlash to it starts to get bored of it as well. And then the cultural pendulum starts to swing the other way. And in another 20 years, probably by the time, if I have children, by the time my hypothetical daughter is, going to college, we'll have like fifth wave virtual reality feminism or whatever. And so I've kind of felt for a long time that this is something that is eventually going to work its way through the system and fade back to the simmer that it is between these periods of the boiling point activity, culturally speaking. But yeah, it's kind of been a long wait. And although I feel like it's starting to abate, I'm not really sure where things are going culturally from here. It'd be easy to say, now is the time to join the resistance and start complaining incessantly about Trump. But to be honest, I'm not really sure how worthwhile that is to do, because there's only so many videos I can make saying that the emperor wears no clothes. Me being some long-haired liberal, because liberals become this pejorative term by people that's hard to even take seriously, to be honest. I'm not going to convince die-hard, the people who have drunk the Trump Kool-Aid. I'm not going to convince them, no matter how many videos I complain about Trump. Trump just seems to be a human drama machine, and half the time it's just distract from things. And it's not that there aren't important things to be discussed in terms of what his administration's doing or how outrageous it all is, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's kind of a drama treadmill that I don't think is all that productive to get on. It's as appealing as it is. It's like a trap. And I'm not sure I really want to fall into that trap and just make video after video after video saying the emperor wears no clothes. The emperor wears no clothes. Because to me, Trump is a dangerously incompetent bullshit artist. And if you didn't get that a long time ago, you're probably not ever going to get it. So aside from not really being in tune with the current zeitgeist of YouTube and not wanting to make this channel all about complaining about the Trump presidency every other day, because there's more than enough to complain about there and more than enough people complaining, it's not really a matter of a lack of ideas. It's more of a lack of motivation's the easiest way to say it, but I think that's oversimplifying things a bit. To go back to say something that I was talking about a moment ago, on one hand, I want to make quality videos that are at the very least thought out, but that requires pre-production, as they say in the entertainment and video, television, whatever, in all those industries. There's this concept of pre-production, the work that you put in before you actually just turn on the lights and turn on the camera and start talking. There was very little in the way of pre-production of this video other than thoughts that have been kicking around in my head for a while that I am just speaking extemporaneously. So part of me wants to script videos, to polish my words and my delivery of those words. Another part of me says, why bother? So you can get the same amount of views that you always get? And then another part says, maybe you could grow your channel. So there's this kind of back and forth where I need to put in an increasing amount of effort to get results, to get better results than before. And it just becomes a matter of diminishing returns, becoming distracted by other things. Now, I do want to start doing live videos. I've talked about that before, doing the whole YouTube live chats. And at the time that I first announced that I wanted to do that, I was having problems with my internet, where it was just the connection was just dropping out sporadically. That's stopped, but I really just haven't set aside the time to do that. I've had just other things. I just get busy, all that sort of usual life stuff that gets in the way. And making this a priority, it just always seems to just keep slipping down the list. And so most of the time it's a month between videos. Other times, like now, it's been like 10 weeks since I've made a video, something like that. Now, although I do have my own ideas for videos for this channel, I would like to hear from my regular viewers what sort of videos and topics they're interested in hearing about. I don't know, there's probably some survey thing I can do, but just put your ideas in the comments section, what sort of videos you like to see from me, what you would like me to talk about, and I will take that under advisement. I'm not promising anything. And although I don't want to talk about specific videos that I want to make too much, because every time I say I'm going to make a video on such and such, 9 times out of 10, I never make that video. I don't know how many times I've mentioned I'm going to make a video about something and then not made the video. I feel like I do have things to say about the social justice wars of the internets, even though they're starting to decline. But I feel instead of getting caught in the nitty gritty of, individual discussions about esoteric topics, giving some more general and overall thoughts on certain aspects of it. For example, the people I think are actually worthy of the term social justice warrior, and what I think is wrong with their mentality, and also what I think is wrong with people's ideas about their mentality. Um, I'll quickly summarize some of it now, in case the day never happens when I make the video, because this is one of those topics. Honestly, I started drafting a response to Awesome Rants way back in the day, where I put a lot of my thoughts down on virtual paper about this, and have wanted to make other videos. It's sort of gone through different incomplete drafts, and then lately I've tried to coalesce it into a single draft that brings a lot of disparate ideas together. But suffice to say that I think a lot of this nonsense about social justice warriors, and I think some people do deserve that term, and probably most don't, because it's just used for anyone who happens to talk about social justice or feminism, just get labeled social justice warrior. For the ones who are worthy of that term, the real problem isn't that they're destroying the universities, which that's a claim that's hard to take seriously anyway, because it usually comes from anti-intellectuals and people who have never been to college. I've said it before, and I will say it again. Pick a random college in America, go there, visit the campus, see what college life is like, and it will be more Animal House than Animal Farm. It's just the reality of it. You're going to get a bunch of stupid, privileged kids getting wasted, and a few kids trying to study. All right, it's to say that they've become these leftist strongholds of the thought police. Give me a break. I've been to college. I've lived in different college towns. This is not reality. But enough of that sort of nonsense. The real problem with social justice warriors is that they're more of a danger to the rest of the social justice movement than they are to society at large, because they turn the whole thing into a kind of circular firing squad. Now, part of this has to do with the fact that social justice, because of this concept of intersectionality, is one of those things in which everyone comes at it as an ally. Sure, you might be a black lesbian woman, but you also might be able-bodied, cisgendered, etc., from a middle-class family, and so on. So almost no one fits this perfectly oppressed minority at the center of the intersectional oppression matrix. So to some degree, to a large degree actually, pretty much everyone is coming at it from the point of view of an ally. Now, somebody might be further removed from the center of the web of oppression, like myself, being a cis hetero white guy from America who's more or less able-bodied and neurotypical, right? Whereas other people might have more on the checklist of oppressions, disadvantages, that sort of thing. But because nearly everyone is an ally, you can always find, they can always seem to dig up, the social justice warriors can always seem to dig up something which another person's attitude or behavior or lifestyle or statement or whatever else that is problematic for some other part of social justice. And to be blunt, and this is not an original observation by any stretch of the imagination, a lot of these people suffer from an overabundance of self-righteousness. There is a hefty dose of sanctimony going around in the social justice movement. And in a future video, I would like to analyze that sort of psychology more. But that's the basic idea. What I'm getting at really is that I have ideas for, deep dive, as the kids like to say, think pieces on some of this stuff, but I really can't be bothered to get involved with the nitty gritty of the latest internet kerfuffle over whatever, however feminists are ruining society this week and weighing in with my opinion. It's hard to me. I feel like I don't want to make this whole video about expressing my frustration with how inane a lot of the discussion in my little keyhole view of YouTube has been over the last 5 or 6 years, but I'm going to let some of it out now. I mean, the latest thing with the Doctor from Doctor Who being cast as a woman. Oh my God, get over it. I don't understand how people can watch a show and accept the fact that the Doctor can regenerate and have a completely different body, be a different age, a different height, different hair color, eye color, have literally everything else change, and then be like, oh, the Doctor has a vagina instead of a penis? No, whoa. That's a bridge too far. It not only disappoints me in the context of the show itself, it disappoints me in the context of science fiction in general, because this is not some new idea, okay? I mean, there have been Hugo and Nebula award-winning authors who have written books about, like gender swapping aliens and things involving gender and all that sort of thing, going back decades and decades. It's not some radical new concept. I think that the idea was latent in Doctor Who for decades. The idea was even kicked around going back to the 80s. And it's just like there's a whole group of people who make their whole mission in life just to find things to complain about, how feminism is ruining everything, who without irony complain that feminists are constantly complaining about trivial things. It's just like, oh God. And they do it in this condescending tone, just like the most condescending tone imaginable, where it's like, first of all, get over yourself. You're not half as clever as you think you are. Most of the time you're using straw men. You're making 2-hour-long videos to say that feminists are complaining about something trivial, whereas you're just throwing gas on the fire. Oh God. See, I want to make a video about social justice warriors, but as you might imagine, I'm not really all that interested in making a video about the anti-social justice, anti-feminist crowd, because contempt can be summarized pretty quickly, to be honest. Yeah. Contempt is the perfect word. At any rate, though, long story short, I am going to continue to make YouTube videos. I do have ideas and plans for future videos, but sometimes I just get in this rut where I just can't be bothered. But I find that even as I'm making this video, that just making a video helps. It's like putting one foot in front of the other, and you start to get back into the motion of it. And part of it has just been a matter of losing my stride, where I used to be more focused on making videos, and it was a voice in my head saying, hey, what's your next video going to be? When are you going to make a video? Etc., etc. And that voice is just, the volume has just turned down, to a whisper over time, and that's created this longer and longer gaps between videos. But just going through the motions, fake it till you make it. Eventually I'll make videos. I make absolutely no promises about when those videos will be released, but it will happen. And perhaps when the culture and the zeitgeist of YouTube changes and the discussion changes somewhat, I might start to get inspired more to actually participate in YouTube, more so than I do now. But the current yapping and about the latest kerfuffle of what some Tumblr feminists, I'm surprised my eyes haven't dislocated from their sockets from rolling them. Let's put it that way. So I'm going to end this rant now. and start editing this together, see if it's even viable. And that's another thing. There's been several videos that I've made that I've just never bothered to release because I didn't finish editing them. But that's another story. Anyway, have a good whatever time it is, and I hope to make another video sooner rather than later.